Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to manipulate a range that is copied. It came in from an email. But first, just a reminder, go to Excel, VBASQL.com. You could watch a whole bunch of hours of video. They're all free. And if you want, you can download the workbook. You can also sign up here, put your email in, and you could be notified when new videos show up. So, okay, let's get started. So, the person emailed in, and basically they said this. They said a lot of times when they're working in a workbook, they have a range of data that looks like this, where you have a date and you have an amount. And what they do all the time is what they said that they take the range and they copy it. So I just did Control C, and then they paste it over here. So they just have to move it to another part of the workbook, but then they have to structure it a certain way. They have to put, the date. They have to put the date on one line, and then they have to put something here. I forget what it was, and then they put the number down here. And they have to do this for every date. Okay, so what they were doing is like going here and going insert, shift cells down, and then they were moving this down here, and then they were putting a title in here. Okay, and then they were doing the same thing for this whole range, doing the same thing: insert, shifting cells down. Insert. Oh, sorry. So they're doing this the whole range. I mean, you could see how terrible this is, right? This is why they emailed in, because this is an awful thing to do. To copy this, and I don't know why they wanted to do it this way, but apparently it was they probably had a range of columns here, like XX and YY as titles, and for some reason it needed to be set up like this. For whatever reason, I have no idea. But they were doing that. So you get the idea, right? That this is a real pain to have to, constantly drag these cells down and move this down and put something in here, whatever. It's a real pain to do that, right? So they emailed in and said, so can a macro be written to just basically do this? So I'm just going to clear this out. They said, can a macro be written so I could just copy this range here and then do something like click a control shortcut key and have that format be generated automatically so they don't have to do anything? Well, the answer is yes, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so let's get started with this. So what I'm going to do, first thing we're going to do is just talk about how the code's going to work. So what we're going to do is assume that the person copied this range wherever they wanted to copy it. So they copied it from here and pasted it here. Okay. And first thing is, okay, we're going to say that how it's going to work is they're going to select the upper right cell, and then they're going to click a shortcut key, and it's going to generate that range how they want to generate it. Okay. So all we have to do with our macro is write a subroutine that will take the active cell here, because they're going to have to select this cell. That's what we said. They're going to select this cell, and it's going to know, okay, here's my active cell, and the range is going to be however far down it goes until it hits a blank cell. So it's going to be going from here, and it's going to go one over. Okay, so we're going to be able to find this range after they pasted it. We're going to find the row, and we're going to find the first row, and we're going to loop until we put this into an array. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to use two arrays, and we're just going to, as soon as they click our subroutine, we are going to put this data in one array, and then we're going to put this data in another array. Okay, and then we're going to clear out the data that's here. Okay, so we're going to put it into an array, and then put this into array, and then we're holding it in memory. So then we can erase this. So we're just going to erase it like this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to return the array to the worksheet in the way that the person wants it generated. So now let's imagine that it's in memory, and now we're going to be able to just spit it out like, like this. We're going to be able to spit it out like this, and so on and so forth, right? So that's what our macro is going to do. It's going to put things in an array, and then it's going to clear the worksheet, and then it's going to generate the format like they wanted. Okay, so let's go into the editor, press Alt F11. Let's insert a module here and sub, and I'm just going to call this manipulate array. Okay, so let's do some things. So I told you that we're going to put the values in an array. So let's declare a couple arrays. I'm just going to declare an array called D, and we're going to use static arrays, which means we're not going to use dynamic arrays that every time we iterate the size is going to change. So you have to go off the requirements, right? If you don't know how many elements are going to be in your array, then use a dynamic array. If you do, then choose a static array that is going to be as big as is needed. So in this case, the person said they never paste more than 100. They never paste more than 100 values. So there's never more. He said there was never more than 100 values that he's copying and pasting. So what I did, I just created two arrays that are going to be of length 100. Okay. Now we could have did this with one array, but I just did it with two because just to show you, you could do it this way. You could do it with a two-dimensional array, and it'll fit the same way. It's a bit more complex, but this is going to be simpler from a conceptual standpoint. Okay, so now I want to create a variable, dim add as string, and this add is going to be the address, active cell.address. Okay, and now also let me create a couple variables, dim r as integer and dim c as integer. So r and c are going to be my row and column, and I'm going to just go r is equal to active cell.row and c is equal to active cell.column. Okay, so up to this point we declared our arrays and we get the address of the active cell. So consider this has happened. The person has copied and pasted the value here, and they click on this upper right corner because that's what we tell them to do, and then they hit the shortcut key, and then it goes into the subroutine, and we find the address of the active cell and we pull the row and the column. Okay, so now let's do something. Let's declare another integer, dim I as integer, and what we want to do now is put the values that he pasted into an array. So I'm just going to do I is equal to 0, and this is going to be the index of our array, and we're going to do until cells r comma c dot value is blank, and we're going to loop, and we're going to say r is equal to r plus 1. So what this loop is going to do is just loop down this column here. It's going to say, okay, here's R, it's going to be the row of this active cell, and it's going to keep looping until it gets to a blank cell. Okay, and what we're going to do is put those values into an array. So that's pretty easy to do. We just do di is equal to, so this is the array, right? And this is the element, the index of the array. The index starts out at 0, and so the 0 indexed element in the array D is going to be equal to cells r comma c dot value, right? Yep. And then we just do the next array, which is just going to be the V array, and that's just going to equal cells r comma c plus 1, because this is in the next column over, right? So here, after this loop, this is it. It's a very simple loop, except that we also have to increment our I. So every time we go through the loop, this index needs to change. Initially it's I equal to 0, and every time we loop down that column, we have to set I equal to I plus 1. Okay? Okay, so this loop right here will, if I set a watch on D, add watch, and a watch on V, if I, let me just go down a little bit more. Let me just put this n sub here. So if I run this now, here's my active cell, right? And if I run it, let me take that off. If I step in here and I run this, okay, we can take a look at V. We could take a look at D, and you could see here's D, right? In our memory, you know, D has 1/1/2001 all the way to 1/10/2001, and the index goes from the 0 element, because we started at 0, and it goes to the 9th element. So from 0 to 9 is 10 elements, which is exactly what we have on our worksheet and that the person pasted. And notice that after that, because we declared D as a date, and you can see the type here is date, it puts in just a blank date, 12 a.m., right? Just be aware of that. But notice also that the array goes all the way down, you know, it goes all the way down to 100, just like we declared it. So again, this is a static array, right? It has 100 spaces in it that you could put 100 different things in. If you don't put anything in that space, it's going to show 12 a.m., right? Now similarly, we said assign the index V, or the array V, the value in the next column, and here that is, right? 10 to 100. And notice that the value after index 9, remember 0 to 9 we started at 0, so 0 to 9 is 10 values. After index 9 it's empty, right? And this will go all the way down to 100 as well. Okay, so now we have that, right? Now we just have to clear those values out, right? Because the person doesn't want to see, once these are in memory, we can get rid of them. Okay, so let's get rid of them. So we could do that in this loop here. All we have to do is do this: cells r comma c dot value is equal to blank, and just paste this again, and then we do the same thing for the next column. Okay, so now let's run it again. And let me go back here. Now this time we run it, we're going to put all this in memory, and then, but when we look at this page, we're going to see that there's going to be nothing in here. Okay, so let's run this. Let me just move it over a little bit, close this. If I run this, there you go. Okay, so look what happened on the worksheet. You know, we have a blank worksheet where the guy pasted, or he or she pasted this range, right? They copy it, they paste it, they go up here, and then they're going to hit a shortcut key, and it's going to do this macro. And when they do it, it's going to create those arrays with the dates and the values like we saw, right? There they are. And it's also going to delete what was in those arrays, what was in the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so we're getting very close. We're almost done. Now all we have to do is generate that format that person emailed in and said, you know, I want the format to look like that. So notice that as we loop through, R is going to be like 11 down here. The ending row is going to be actually 12 because we do R plus 1. But what we want to do is then find that initial place where he or she pasted the value, which is that address. So this is why I did active cell address and I put it in that variable, because all I have to do now is go range add dot select to take me back to this cell, and now I just do R is equal to active cell dot value, or row, and C is equal to active cell dot column. Okay, so now what we did, we're about to write another loop here that will, once we have that data in an array, it's going to generate that format. So let's do that. So when we're dealing with an array and you want to spit out all the values in an array, it's real good to use a for loop. Okay, so let's use a for loop. So we'll do for I equal to 1, or I equal to 0, sorry, to, okay, so let's think about this. We have an array here, right, that D. We have an array D that goes from, 0 to 99, the indexes, right? And we want to loop through every place that has a date in it. And then the person who emailed me said, well, we're never going to have more than 100, but they can have less than 100. So the number of dates can be, it's not always going to be the same number. So we need to go through every element and check, does it have a date in it? And we can do that by doing this. You go from I equal to 0 to U bound, and then you do D, and then you do next I. So what that loop does is it's going to go through this array, okay? But now we don't want to go through every single element, only the ones that have dates in it. So we put an if statement. We do if di does not equal, and remember in memory that we saw that 12:00:00 a.m. Remember we looked in memory and we saw that if there is no date in it, like down here, it's going to put 12 a.m., 12 a.m. all the way down to index 99. So we're going to say if di does not equal that, then do something. Okay? And what we're going to do then is this. Now we're going to generate the template like the person wanted. So we're going to do our row.column.value is equal to the date. And then we're going to do this. Our row.column, our row plus 1 column is equal to, now I'm just going to put a generic thing in here, title, okay, and oops, put our plus 1. So this is going to generate the template like the person wants, and this template can be modified however you want to modify it, right? But this is in an if statement, so you have to do end if there. Okay. I already did the end if, sorry. Okay, so we have our for loop that loops through the array, and within that we check is the element not a date, meaning not is the element not empty. And if it's not empty, then we're going to spit out what is ever in this array di as the date here, right? Oops, and this one here actually should be vi. Okay, so here's the first array and here's the second array, and I offset the row and the column, right? Now one thing we need to do is that we need to also in this for loop go r is equal to r plus 2, because the template says this is the template 1, 1, 2001, and then we're going to put title, and then we're going to put whatever value is over here, 10. So we said here's r, and then we offset that r plus 1. So we need to go r plus 2 is our next place that we want to insert something, right? That's why we did r equals r plus 2. Because every time we go through this loop, if we do something, we want to set r equal r plus 2. So that here's 1, 1, 2001, and then we go r equals r plus 1, r equals r plus 2, and then we go 1 comma 2 comma 2001, and then we do title again, and then we do whatever that is, 20. So we do that for the whole thing, right? So okay, let's run the code and see if it works. And I'll put a breakpoint right here so that we can see when it runs. Okay, so let's do this. Let's copy the data, just like the guy said he would, or he or she would, and we paste it, and we select the upper cell. Now I go to my code, and we'll put the shortcut key in a second, but I just want to run this, okay? And here I got to the breakpoint, right? So if I step through, let me just scroll down a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to get a good picture for you. But you can see, okay, so what it did right there, it put 1/1/2001 in that cell. Do you see that? And that's what this line did right here. And now if I step through again, there it put title in the next row and that same column. And now it's going to put the value right there, 10, in the next row, that same row, r+1, and the next column. And if we keep stepping through, you'll see, it put 1, 2, which is this value, right? And it's also in the array, here's it's 1, 2. So D number 1, if we look at I is going to be equal to 1 right now. So D1 is equal to 1, 2, 2001, and there it is. And if we just keep stepping through, you got title going into that cell, and then now if we step through this line, you have 20 going into there. So we're doing the template like the person says. So I'm going to take this breakpoint off and just run the whole thing, and there you go. Okay, so I just ran the whole thing, and I could just center this, as you can see that it's exactly what the person wanted. They wanted to just copy something and paste that, and then do a shortcut key. Okay, so let's do a shortcut. Let's do the shortcut key now. I'm gonna just clear this out. I'm gonna go back to here, take off this breakpoint, and remember that I'm gonna save this. I'm going to go to the developer tab. I'm going to go to macros, and how to add a shortcut key, you just go to options, and I'm just going to put Control Q. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click close, and now to run that macro, all I got to do is paste this again. Control C. I'm going to do Control V to paste it, and I'm going to select this cell and do Control Q. Oops, it's in break mode. Let me get out of break mode here. Sorry about that. So if I just go back here and press Control Q, there we go. I gotta take that breakpoint off, sorry. But you can see that it worked, right? So let me do it again. Let me paste this range here, Control C, Control V, and then I select that cell, and then I press Control Q, and there you go. So that person, they would have had to create this template themselves, putting the date and then going down a row, title, 210, and then the same thing, right? It's a real pain to do that. And in the grand scheme of things, is this some super important thing that can be used in all industries? And no, it's not. This is one of those things that VBA can change one person's job immensely, because this is sort of a task that maybe one guy or one girl or one woman at some company has, but it would take them 10 or 15 minutes to do that. And if you have 50 of these things, who knows how long people spend doing this, right? So if you can automate all this stuff for them, then they're going to appreciate that, and you're you're going to have a lot of value to whoever you're working for. So that's what I wanted to show you in this video. The fact that all the little tasks in Excel that you might think are a pain, that you can use VBA to get around them real easily, like that. Okay, so as a reminder, again, go to Excel VBA SQL. I'm going to post this workbook with the code there. You can download that, or if you want to watch the video, it's totally free. And there's also 8 hours more of video, and that's growing every week. There's going to be hours and hours of video, and learn VBA because it can really help your job, and it can really save you time and make you valuable. The other thing is put your email in here, and when new videos are uploaded, you'll be notified. Okay, thank you. And if you have questions, contact me at the site. Thanks.